When a police canine dog led his officer to a grave, they uncovered a deadly truth. Officer Logan Pierce and his canine partner, Ranger, stumble upon a grave that should hold no secrets, but the dog's relentless instincts say otherwise. As Logan digs deeper, he unravels a web of corruption, missing persons, and a powerful organization willing to kill to keep their secrets buried. Hunted by law enforcement and mercenaries alike, Logan leaks the truth to the world, igniting a firestorm of consequences. But just when he thinks it's over, a cryptic message from the woman he thought was lost forever proves the real game has only begun. In the shadows of a world built on deception, Logan is no longer just chasing the truth, he is fighting to survive it. Officer Logan Pierce guided his Belgian Malinois, Ranger, through the narrow pathways of Maplewood Cemetery, the rhythmic crunch of gravel underfoot the only sound breaking the still air. The patrol was routine. A missing person report had led them to the nearby woods, but the deeper they searched, the less promising the lead became. Just another dead end. Logan sighed and adjusted the leash as Ranger sniffed the ground, scanning for anything unusual. Ranger froze. His ears pulled back, tail stiff. His body tensed with an alertness Logan knew well. The dog's focus locked onto a single grave, his stance rigid, his breath coming in sharp bursts. "What is it, buddy?" Logan knelt beside him, reading the name engraved in stone. Daniel Mercer, 1978 to 2019. No flowers. No fresh footprints. Nothing out of place. Still, Ranger wouldn't budge. His nails raked the damp earth, movements frantic, digging with an urgency Logan had never seen before. A deep, uneasy growl rumbled from his chest. Logan pulled the leash, but Ranger fought against it, his body low, muscles straining, as if something beneath the ground demanded his attention. "That's enough," Logan said firmly, tightening his grip. "Leave it." Ranger stopped scratching but didn't relax. His eyes darted from Logan to the headstone, then back again, as if expecting Logan to understand. The officer scanned the grave, his pulse quickening, though he couldn't say why. Mercer. The name was familiar, but Logan couldn't place it. A man with no criminal record, no history of violence. Official cause of death? Heart attack. Just another ordinary tragedy. And yet, standing there with his restless canine partner, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that something about this wasn't right. That night, Logan dreamed of gunfire. A flash. A woman's scream. A door slamming shut. His own voice shouting, but the words blurred together. Then silence, thick, suffocating silence, before a final, desperate plea. His eyes snapped open. The darkness of his bedroom stretched around him, but the weight in his chest didn't fade. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to shake the lingering images. Morning brought no clarity, only a deep-rooted unease. At his desk in the precinct, Logan pulled up Mercer's file. Heart attack. No foul play suspected. Everything about it seemed routine. But Ranger's reaction refused to leave his mind, and Logan trusted his partner more than he trusted paperwork. His fingers tapped the keyboard, searching deeper. Mercer had been engaged. His fiancée, Olivia Warren, had disappeared without a trace in 2019. Logan leaned back, staring at the screen. Missing persons case. Closed. Runaway, the official report claimed. No signs of struggle. No strong leads. It had been a dead case for years. Emily Warren, Olivia's sister, had never accepted that answer. He skimmed through old interviews. Emily had insisted Olivia wouldn't have left without a word, without a reason. No one listened. Logan glanced at the framed picture of Ranger on his desk. "You always know when something's off," he muttered. "And I think you just found something everyone else missed." The feeling only grew stronger as he dug deeper. Mercer's name barely came up in Olivia's case file. No official statements. No records of interrogation. A man about to marry a woman who vanished overnight, and no one thought to look at him twice? It didn't sit right. The clock showed nearly midnight by the time Logan left the station, his mind still tangled in the puzzle. As he turned onto the quiet stretch leading home, headlights flickered in his rearview mirror. A black SUV. It kept its distance but didn't turn away. Logan's grip on the wheel tightened. He changed lanes. So did the SUV. It tested. A second later, he turned abruptly onto a side road. The SUV followed. Every nerve in Logan's body fired at once. He pressed the accelerator, watching the vehicle's movement, waiting for it to make a move, overtake, pull back, something. Nothing. It stayed just far enough to be a presence, but close enough to send a message. Logan exhaled sharply, gripping his phone. One wrong move, and he'd find himself boxed in. His training kicked in, mind racing through options, exits, countermeasures. And then, as if the game had been played long enough, the SUV turned off at the next intersection, vanishing into the night. Logan kept driving, his pulse steady, but his mind anything but calm. Something was wrong. And now, someone knew he was looking. Logan parked outside a quiet cafe, his eyes scanning the street before stepping out. Emily Warren had agreed to meet him here, though her reluctance had been clear over the phone. Inside, she sat near the back, arms folded tightly across her chest. As Logan approached, she met his gaze with wary determination. She didn't run away, Emily said before he could even introduce himself. I told them that over and over. Olivia was scared. She was hiding from someone. Logan slid into the seat across from her. Did she ever say who? Emily shook her head. She wouldn't talk about it. Just said she had to be careful. Outside, Ranger paced in the back of Logan's car, tail low, ears flicking at every passing shadow. His behavior had worsened since last night. He barely touched his food, and every little noise set him off. Later, with Emily's words still circling in his mind, Logan drove across town to Mercer's abandoned apartment. The door lock was cheap and gave way easily. Inside, dust covered the countertops, but the place had been cleared of anything useful, except for a loose floorboard near the bedroom closet. Logan pried it open, pulling out a small USB drive. Plugging it into his laptop, he clicked the only video file inside. Olivia's tear-streaked face filled the screen. She glanced over her shoulder before speaking, voice barely above a whisper. They know they'll kill me if I say anything. Before Logan could process it, a noise from behind sent his instincts into overdrive. A masked figure lunged at him. They fought hard. Logan landed a hit, but the intruder was fast. The drive was ripped from his hands before he could react, and then a sharp pain exploded at the side of his head. Darkness. When he came to, the apartment was empty. The drive was gone. Blood dripped from his temple, but he barely felt it. Whoever was behind this wasn't just watching, they were one step ahead. Hours later, as he dug into Mercer's autopsy report, the final piece clicked into place. The toxicology results listed something odd, traces of a rare neurotoxin. Mercer's heart attack hadn't been natural. He had been poisoned. That night, the explosion shattered the quiet. Flames swallowed Logan's home before he even registered what had happened. Smoke filled his lungs as he grabbed Ranger and ran. His files, his evidence, everything was gone. Someone wanted this buried, and they were willing to kill for it. Logan adjusted the bandage at his temple, the sting barely noticeable compared to everything else weighing on him. The explosion had taken everything, his home, his evidence, and any illusion that this investigation was still in his control. The only thing left to do was push forward. Emily sat beside him in the borrowed truck, staring at the map spread across the dashboard. "Who's Elliot Kane?" she asked, tracing a name Logan had scrawled in the corner. "A former employee at Sentinel Dynamics," Logan replied. "The company Olivia worked for." Emily frowned. "You think he knows what happened to her? If he's still alive?" The drive to Kane's hideout was long, and neither spoke much. "Ranger, curled in the back seat, lifted his head at every sound, his unease matching Logan's own. Kane's hideout was nothing more than a rundown warehouse on the edge of town. Logan knocked once before forcing the door open. The man inside had the look of someone who hadn't slept in days. Unshaven, eyes darting with suspicion, fingers twitching near an old laptop. "You shouldn't be here," Kane said, voice low. Logan shut the door behind him. "Neither should you." Kane rubbed his face, exhaling through clenched teeth. "I knew someone would come knocking eventually. Then start talking." Kane did, and what he said changed everything. Sentinel Dynamics wasn't just a cybersecurity firm. They ran illegal surveillance, blackmail, and data manipulation for clients with enough money to bury the truth. Olivia discovered something too big to ignore. She tried to act, but then she disappeared. Logan folded his arms. What did she find? Kane hesitated, then reached for a rusted filing cabinet. She recorded everything, but Mercer found out first. He tried to uncover the truth. Emily's breath hitched. And they killed him for it. Kane nodded. And Olivia? She's not dead. Silence thickened the air. She's alive? Logan pressed. They staged her disappearance. It was easier than killing her outright. Before anyone could react, the warehouse doors burst open. Gunfire split the air. Kane dropped before he could run. Logan grabbed Emily and pulled her toward cover as bullets shredded the walls. Ranger barked, his growl low and sharp. Kane, barely able to lift his head, pressed something into Logan's hand. A slip of paper. Coordinates. Go, he rasped. Then he was gone. Logan shoved the coordinates into his pocket and grabbed Emily's hand. They ran, Ranger at their side, slipping into the night. Now, they weren't just chasing the truth. They were running for their lives. The truck's tires crunched over loose gravel as Logan followed the coordinates deep into the mountains. The road had turned rough miles ago, the terrain growing more treacherous with each turn. Emily gripped the door handle, her eyes darting between the screen on Logan's GPS and the dense tree line stretching into the darkness. Ranger sat rigid in the back, his head high, ears locked forward. The coordinates led them to an abandoned research facility. A rusted chain-link fence surrounded the property, sagging in places where nature had begun reclaiming the land. The building loomed ahead, its concrete walls streaked with years of neglect. But Logan knew better. This wasn't some forgotten place. It had been hidden for a reason. Inside, the stale air carried the scent of chemicals and old metal. Logan swept his flashlight over the walls, past overturned desks and shattered monitors. Deeper in, he found an elevator leading underground. The doors groaned as they slid open, revealing a lower level untouched by decay. Fluorescent panels buzzed overhead, casting sharp shadows down a sterile hallway lined with locked rooms. One door stood slightly ajar. Logan stepped inside. Strapped to a gurney, Olivia Warren lay motionless. Wires snaked from her arms, machines tracking her vitals in quiet beeps. Her eyes fluttered open for a second, then shut again. Whatever they had given her kept her just on the edge of consciousness. Logan worked quickly, unclasping the restraints. Emily hovered nearby, hands clenched into fists. She's alive, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. The red light flashed. Alarms shrieked through the underground complex. Logan spun toward the door just as boots pounded down the corridor. We have company. The first guard rounded the corner and met Logan's fist. The second dropped as Ranger lunged, bringing him to the ground with a sharp yelp. Emily yanked a gun from the fallen guard's holster, backing toward Olivia. Gunfire erupted. Bullets slammed into metal and concrete. Logan took down another attacker, pressing forward with calculated precision. Every move was practiced, every shot deliberate. Sentinel Dynamics hadn't just hidden Olivia, they had built an entire operation under this facility. From the gurney, Olivia stirred. Her voice rasped through the chaos. "They're watching." Logan barely had time to process before the next shot rang out. Olivia gasped. Her body jerked as a sniper's bullet struck her. Logan caught her before she hit the floor, pressing a hand to the wound. Blood seeped between his fingers. Her eyes locked onto his, filled with something unspoken. More guards stormed in. Logan had no choice. He grabbed Emily's arm and pulled her toward the exit. Ranger growled at their heels, covering their retreat. Olivia's body was wrenched from his grasp by the security team as the doors slammed shut behind them. They had lost her again. Logan pressed his back against the crumbling brick wall of an alley, his breath steady despite the weight of everything closing in around him. His face was everywhere: news reports, government bulletins, agency briefings. They had labeled him a traitor, an arsonist, and a fugitive. Sentinel Dynamics had buried their tracks well, framing him for every crime they needed to keep their operation intact. Police, federal agents, and mercenaries were sweeping the city, searching for him. Nowhere was safe, and anyone who helped him would suffer the consequences. Emily was already in hiding, forced to disappear under a new identity. Logan had no such luxury. With no way to fight them in the open, he did the only thing left: he exposed everything. The files he had gathered, the stolen documents from Sentinel Dynamics' underground facility, and the encrypted drives Kane had left behind, all of it was sent to every independent journalist, whistleblower organization, and rogue hacker who could spread the truth faster than Sentinel Dynamics could contain it. The world reacted immediately. Headlines exploded across every news outlet. Sentinel Dynamics was no longer a name whispered in corporate backrooms. It was now at the center of the biggest scandal in decades. Their operations had controlled elections, blackmailed politicians, and manipulated global events. Protests erupted, demanding accountability. Arrests followed as governments scrambled to distance themselves from the fallout, but the people at the top, the ones truly responsible, vanished. Sentinel Dynamics' highest executives disappeared, their vast resources still intact. They left behind empty offices, erased data trails, and a network of loyal operatives waiting for the right moment to strike again. Logan watched it all unfold from the shadows. Ranger sat beside him in an abandoned train yard, the city's chaos playing out on a stolen tablet. Justice had been served, but it wasn't over. It would never be over as long as those in power could rebuild what had been lost.